Hello, everybody. My name is Karen and McNeese. I am one of the dietitians at UK Health and Wellness. And of course, my colleague, Vanessa Oliver, is also here with us today.
Hi, I'm Vanessa, the other dietitian at UK Health and Wellness.
We're glad that you joined us today. This is our final week of our well-being weeks. We're glad that you're here to join us for a short while to talk about how to fuel your flow. In just a moment, I'm going to share a document that we're going to look at together. Vanessa is also going to share a document when I turn things over to her. But when I'm done speaking, I'm going to share both of those documents in the chat box. And you are welcome to download those documents from the chat box at that time to have. We'll also send an email out afterwards to everyone who is registered for this with those handouts as well. So you will have those for reference. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We're still welcoming a couple folks, so I'll take my time transitioning here, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up this PDF called our Eat Well Food Guide. And the name of our discussion today is Fuel Your Flow, right? And, flow really meaning just kind of what you're trying to get done each day, right? Trying to be in the groove and do your thing at work, do your thing at home, do your recreational things perhaps in between. We all have busy lifestyles. We all have a flow we want to get through and do as well as possible with as much energy as possible. And that's where nutrition comes into play, right? It's so important for us to, kind of optimize what we're doing every day and be there for, again, our jobs, our coworkers, our family, the people around us. And for ourselves of course too, and fueling that with good nutrition often gets overlooked. So we're really happy to have a moment here with you today to talk about how to optimize energy to do our busy days and maybe still have a little energy left over for some other fun stuff, right? We want quality of life and we want that balance, and nutrition is certainly not the end all and be all of that, but it is a big part of it. So we're going to share a few basic strategies for you today. I will say, I don't think anything, we discussed today about nutrition will probably be, real mind blowing to anybody. Okay. I mean, we are all about the basics here at Eat Well, which a lot of people know, but also a lot of people have trouble implementing into their day to day lives. So I also want to put out there that if this piques your interest in discussing your nutrition a little bit more, taking this a step further, Vanessa and I are here for you guys. We are, again, full-time dietitians. We offer free consultations, and you're always welcome to reach out to us if you want to do some more exploring of how you can fuel your flow. So this Eat Well food guide is actually something we developed here at Eat Well that we share with a lot of our clients. When people just ask us, what should I eat? Right? That's that basic question. What should I eat? And a lot of misconceptions about what are healthy foods, and we're always hearing about these good and bad foods we should and shouldn't eat, but again, it really comes back to basics, and these are those. So I just want to kind of talk through these, look at what's in each group. I'm going to talk mostly about, kind of the quality of the food you're eating, such as the things on here, and give you some ideas for what those look like. But then Vanessa is going to talk a little bit more about kind of how to integrate this into honoring your hunger and fullness, and timing throughout the day, and making sure that you're kind of, eating consistently throughout the day too, because that's just as important as what you're eating. So we kind of have this broken down into our macronutrient categories. You guys may have heard about macros. That's kind of like a big buzzword right now. And, people are kind of making it into a diet, but macros have been around for a long time. And macros are really macronutrients. They are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And they are the building blocks of all the food we eat. Any food you eat has some carbohydrate, protein, and or fat. All right. Now we have an alcohol group that's totally separate. That's not included here. Okay. And we have vegetables, which are kind of their own little group because they're not real high in carbohydrates or proteins or fats, but we know that they're tremendously healthful. They have tons of fiber, they have tons of vitamins and minerals, other phytonutrients and micronutrients that are important too. So they are in their own separate category. And I just want to make an asterisk there that we're not trying to, you know, outcast the vegetables. They just don't fit neatly into any one of these categories. So carbohydrates, I love to start there because people, again, thinking carbs are bad. I keep hearing this message, carbs are bad. I keep hearing I should be doing keto diet and carb cycling and all these kinds of things. Okay. What people often don't realize is that your body is made to run on carbohydrates. They are your body's preferred fuel source. So you do need carbohydrates consistently throughout the day to really optimize your energy. If you think about kind of your liver and the stored carbohydrates that live there, that's like your gas tank. And after about 3 to 5 hours of eating, for most people, that gas tank kind of gets low and we need to refuel it with carbohydrates. Okay. So carbs are your friend when it comes to energy and fuel. The trick is making sure we're having high quality carbohydrates, making sure we're getting high fiber whole grains like whole wheat pastas and bread and brown rice. We're doing starchy vegetables. Yes, that includes potatoes and corn, which people often think are big no-nos, right? These are great examples of unprocessed whole food, high fiber, high nutrient carbohydrates. You got oats, beans, fruit, dairy, such as milk and yogurt, all being really good sources of carbohydrates. Okay. Most of these carbohydrates, the only exception are the milk and yogurt because dairy doesn't have fiber. But all the rest of these things on the carb list have fiber too. And fiber is something that we know has a lot of health benefits, maybe preventing certain cancers, heart disease, diabetes, but it also helps us feel full. So if you're trying to really optimize energy and fullness so you can stay in that flow, do your thing during the day, fiber is really going to be very helpful there too. Okay. So the next group is protein. And when we talk about optimizing energy and fullness, protein is right up there along with high fiber carbohydrates. All right. Protein also is something that takes a little time in your work for your body to digest and break down. So it gives you energy that's also longer lasting. But the trick again is the quality of the proteins, right? We want to do more maybe plant-based things like beans. We want to do lean animal proteins such as, chicken, turkey, seafood. Yes, cheese is okay. We often get, surprise faces when people see cheese. But cheese, especially if you don't eat any meat or a lot of meat, can be a really good high quality protein source and it's delicious. Eggs, meat alternatives like tofu, tempeh, seitan. Again, we got our beans and lentils there again because they are a great combo. They are high in fiber, carbs, and protein. They are the full package. You also got some peanut butter, which is also a healthy fat, and again, our yogurt and our yogurt and milk, which are also going to be high in protein. So you got a lot of choices. Again, even if you're not a meat eater or a meat lover, you got plant-based things. You have dairy and eggs. So you got a lot of choices here. What we really want to minimize are things like hot dogs and bacon and those, more high fat processed meats, brats and pork sausages. Those are okay on occasion, but we don't want those kinds of things to be your primary protein sources. And then finally, we have our fats. All right. So we're looking again for heart healthy fats. And fats won't make up as much of the volume of your diet because they are more calorie dense. That's just how fats are, right? They're about twice as calorie dense as carbs and protein. So we don't eat as much in volume, but it is important to get some fat in your diet. There's a lot of hormones in your body that help things run that depend on fat. So it's very important. But again, heart healthy fats, what we call these unsaturated fats. So that would include things like avocados or guacamole, olives, pretty much any kind of nuts or seeds, vinaigrette type dressings, milk alternatives. If you don't drink cow's milk, although we do recommend cow's milk if you drink it and can tolerate it, but these other alternative milks often can provide some healthy fats. Cooking with things like olive and canola oils. And again, there's our peanut butters. So again, trying to minimize other types of fat, the more saturated fats like butter and cream cheese and sour cream, those kinds of things. Again, delicious, fine in moderation, but we want to try to get most of our fats from these for healthy fats. So that is really the foundation of a health promoting, energy optimized kind of diet that can help fuel your flow, trying to get a good mix of these quality carbohydrates, proteins, and fats throughout the day. So I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa at this point. We're about halfway through, and I will let her finish up, and I'll share these documents in the chat box with you.
All right. I'm going to go on and share a document here that will be a hunger and fullness scale. I'm going to talk about it while it's up because one of the things that can really sort of interrupt your flow, as it were, is feeling either really hungry or really full. And a lot of people seem to be pathologically frightened of hunger. And I just want to state from the get-go that hunger is a natural biological signal, right? It lets you know that you need energy. It's your body's way of communicating its need for survival. Okay, just full stop. But some people might be experiencing hunger as something to be avoided, and this can manifest for lots of different reasons. But if someone has used perhaps fasting in the past in order to lose weight, then hunger is, of course, something to be avoided for that person. And they might feel like they don't have any willpower if they feel hunger, so they even avoid it even more. Someone might become frightened of experiencing hunger because it's resulted in an out of control eating behavior in the past. And so that, of course, also reinforces a fear of hunger. So someone might always keep themselves paradoxically in a fed state, right? Because they're so terrified of hunger, and eating when a hunger level is maybe at, either extreme of this particular scale, which you can see here. We've got the middle part of this scale shaded in. It seems, easily said, maybe more easily said than done, but we would optimally like to remain in the middle of this hunger scale if we can. So if you can look at number 3, where you're hungry and ready to eat, but it's without urgency, you're not so hungry that that's all you can think about, that's going to interrupt whatever else that you're doing. We're all the way up to 7, where you're at a comfortable fullness. You feel satisfied, you feel content. It's not consuming all of your other thoughts, okay? Because waiting too long to eat can trigger something which is called a primal hunger. And this often results in overeating. So many times in consults or just in one-on-one conversations with clients, someone will ask inevitably, well, how am I supposed to eat? How often am I supposed to eat a day? Someone says 3 times a day, someone says 4 times a day, someone says 5 to 6 times a day. Which one is right? So I'm here to tell you that there is no right answer for everybody. Okay, Karen mentioned earlier that our carbohydrate stores in our liver tend to run out every sort of 4 or 5 hours or so. So if you're someone who's really trying to figure out what is a good eating pattern for you, if maybe you have over restricted in the past so that you are experiencing hunger, or you're too afraid to experience hunger, or if you are always sort of feeling full because you've been grazing all day, maybe it's a good idea to reset going forward using that every 4 to 5 hours or so and beginning a feeding pattern experiment. Okay. Sometimes that might mean eating when you're not hungry. Sometimes that might mean waiting until you're a little bit to like a 2 or an 8 on this hunger scale, for example. But at this point, you are really just sort of experimenting to see what would work for you. But all in all, that's probably the only trick that we would recommend if we were talking about hunger and fullness, because using tricks to maybe not eat when you are experiencing a sort of biological hunger will lead to an inability to listen to and to learn to trust your body. And we really want to improve that conversation that we're having between our mind and our body when it comes to eating and food behavior. Because for so many of us, that conversation has just kind of been silenced for various reasons. So again, hunger is not a symptom to overcome. It's not shameful. It is a normal and natural biological signal that tells you when it's time to fuel your flow, right? Also, fullness is going to be a very important part of this relationship as well. When we're talking about fullness, remember that some very restrictive or overly planned sort of eating plans or meal plans can sometimes talk about like a right time to eat and a wrong time to eat. You're eating very much by the clock, for example. And this can mean sometimes that meal times, when they come along, you feel like you have this license to eat everything and anything in sight. You're eating in a manner that is very, very disconnected from your body because you're eating according to an external source, that clock or that schedule, for example. You're eating when it's legal. So it's like game on whenever it is sort of okay to eat. So what can happen as a result of repeated cycles of this, so your bodies may no longer recognize fullness or hunger, right? Instead, we get stuck in this almost like a cycle of deprivation and then overeating, like a feast and famine kind of situation. And we may not be able to recognize feelings of fullness when we do eat. So just some quick strategies to reconnect maybe, or to honor hunger and fullness. Number one, forget the clock, right? Your hunger may not ebb and flow like everyone else's hunger, or even like your hunger yesterday, okay? And that is totally normal and natural. As best as possible, find a regular and consistent pattern that does work for you, your body, your life, okay? Take care not to get overly hungry, all right? Stay in that sort of 3 to 4 to 5 range, all right? Take care not to get overly full, okay? Stay in that 5, that 6, that 7 range. And again, if this is very difficult for you to gauge at the get-go, then that general guideline is going to be every 4 to 5 hours based on biology, basically, based on your liver storage. And as you do eat, check in with your body, right? Even before you start eating, ask yourself, what's my hunger level right now? It may sound really funny to talk to yourself in that kind of way, but it is a very focused step of awareness to get your mind back in tune with your body, let's say. You want to be very careful to be very open-minded, very non-judgmental when you ask yourself this question. If you start to attach morality, for example, to this question, if an answer is good or bad, for example, you want to get away from that. So if you do start to attach like good or bad values to whatever your answer might be to your question, maybe go back to some more overall sort of qualitative descriptors. Is your hunger level pleasant or unpleasant, for example, not are you hungry right now, if that makes sense. Also, keeping yourself fed with adequate carbohydrates, as well as other calories, can help with reestablishing a more consistent hunger and fullness pattern as well. Some quick strategies to connect to fullness: sometimes pausing in the middle of a meal or a snack for sort of a little timeout to see where you are on this hunger and fullness scale can be very helpful. Checking in with your body, checking in with your taste buds. Does this food still taste good to me? You can sort of assess your fullness that way. And then again, just like you did when you were assessing your hunger level, when you're finished eating, assess your fullness level as well. How would you describe your fullness? Did you reach comfortable fullness, or maybe you went a little bit past it? And you can use this sort of scale to sort of help you. And assessing your fullness every time you eat will help you, again, reestablish more consistent patterns. And again, always keep these judgments, or always keep these observations non-judgmental. Keep them very, very neutral and without judgment. Karen, I think, is going to wrap it up. Did you have anything else to add with that, or
thanks,
maybe we can
Vanessa?
open it up for questions?
Yeah, I thought of one thing I meant to mention, and I know you and I talked about before this, but just wanted to mention the importance of hydration. That is a kind of aspect of nutrition that we probably don't talk about enough. But there's a lot of folks, a lot of us walking around, kind of in a semi-dehydrated state. We're just not drinking enough fluids,
Especially
and
when it's
so
warm.
yeah, it's a good point. As it's getting warmer, we probably need a little bit more, right? So yeah, hydration's important. It really helps everything that our body does work a little better. A lot of people experience just feeling a little bit more energetic when they're better hydrated. Sometimes we confuse hunger and fullness, right? Sometimes we think we're hungry, but maybe we're actually thirsty. So paying attention to hydration, and hydration doesn't just have to come from water. I mean, it can come from milk, it can come from sparkling water, it can come from unsweetened tea, it can come from coffee. So there's a lot of ways that you get fluids. We want water to be the primary vehicle, but just wanted to make sure we note that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but we are
actually,
happy.
that's.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh
Go ahead,
no, I was
Megan.
just gonna say the coffee thing just reminded me. Sometimes people think that coffee is going to dehydrate you. We just want to put it out there that any fluid is actively contributing to your hydration status, even coffee.
That may be the most exciting thing folks have heard all day.
Could be.
Well, yeah, we are happy to take some questions if anybody has them. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, again for being here. We appreciate it. We'll hope to see you at a future health and wellness event.